Well, it's the sun is shining, the air is blowing, and I'm outside. It's a little hot for a scarf, but you know what? The scarf means it's story time. So thanks, indulge me. I want to tell a story about maybe not too long-winded a story, but yeah, right. With me talking, it's gonna be long. But another memory lane, another blast from the past kind of story. Me and my nephews, we were close in age. Probably I'm a little 6 or 7 years older than them. But when we were coming up, we did a lot of things together. We Our favorite thing, especially around the holidays when we could, like the 4th of July or whatever, we could get bottle rockets for cheap. And my mother would actually let me get fireworks. We would have fireworks wars. We had bottle rocket battles, and in our backyard, where we would divide up. Sometimes it would be me and one of my nephews against the other nephew and my brother, or other nephew and somebody else. So we'd have 2-on-2 teams, and we would they'd be down in the chicken yard where the barn was, and we'd be up by the house. Not too close to the house. And my mom there hated fireworks for good reason. We started many a fire with an errant bottle rocket every now and then. I got a bad batch one year, and that it was not your usual bottle rockets. They were a little bit bigger, and they made a lot of noise. And all they really did was everywhere they landed, they started a fire. In the neighbor's yard, they started a fire across the road where some kudzu. Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, my mother hated bottle rockets, but we have always had these bottle rocket wars. And one year, I remember I trudged over the road and through this gully ditch which came out right behind them when they were down by the chicken yard, and I just threw a bunch of butt cats behind them and scared the out of them. And that was like my greatest victory. And I was muddy and torn up, but it was like crawling through war zone. We were gonna get them, and we won that war. But one year in particular, I had some bottle rockets left over. And this year, this point in time, my brother was older. He was in his 20s. He was living still on the property, but in a blockhouse, like a cinder block house that my dad had built years ago for storage, but he let him reconvert it into like a little apartment. And my brother was sitting. It's sort of a shotgun deal. The door went straight through to one big room where his bed was, and he had a bathroom and small kitchen area. But he had the door open one Saturday morning after, I think it was after the 4th of July, and we had an epic bottle rocket battle. And I had a couple bottle rockets left, and the door was wide open, and I could see him from a distance across the yard, sitting up watching his TV, probably whatever he was watching, Saturday morning cartoons or whatever it was. And I stuck a bottle rocket in the ground, no thought other than just to scare him. Lit it, and it took off straight through his door, open door, straight landed right on the bed next to him, and blew up. He caught his bed on fire. This was not from the package of the ones that were really bad, but this was a fire enough it burned a little hole about that size into his sheet. And I just saw him. First thing I knew, it blew up. He was beating the fire out with his pillow, and he turned, and I was still stuck there. Like you think, like when something happens, you're gonna like react really quickly. You see that in the movies where people are like, "Why are you just standing there?" But I was stuck. I was like, "What?" And I saw that he turned and looked at me after the fire was out, and he's a big guy like me. But back then I was a little bit more younger, it's prior, and he took off after me. And this time the road we lived on was not paved. It was still a dirt road. Still had these deep gullies on the side. So for lack of a better idea, I took off down the road, and I looked behind me, and I could have really got away from him if I had not been laughing so hard. Every time I turned around, I saw him steaming, barreling towards me. He was going to hurt me. And I was just running, and I'm like, I better book it back to the house. So I jumped over this part of the gully, scrambled up the side with a tree line, and went back towards the house. And I looked back to see him trying to do the same thing, and he tried to jump the gully, but he fell flat on his face. And I was like, that's hilarious. But it also amplified his anger times 100. And I heard a lot of choice words coming out of his mouth. And if he got a hold of me, I was not long for this world, I tell you. And so I took off, got in my room in the house. It was just Saturday, okay? I barricaded, I put my dresser, all sorts of things in front of my door. My mother thought I was crazy. And he come banging on the door and he couldn't get in. I had it locked. I had it barricaded, literally. And I'm like, I did not come out the rest of that day, that night, not even to use the bathroom until the next morning, Sunday morning, when we had to go to church. He was asleep, so I snuck out of the house that morning. I think it, and by the time I saw him Sunday afternoon, he had calmed down enough, or mom had reasoned with him enough. I just remember shooting a bottle rocket, catching his bed on fire, and almost seeing my life flash before my eyes. I'm not sure what he did to get back at me later. I'm sure something happened, but I probably purged that from my memory. Just goes to show you that you can find the joy in a lot of memories you have from your past, especially when you were young and stupid. And you can kind of forgive yourself a little, and maybe others will forgive you, because even now when you're old and stupid, it's not as easy to to push stupid things aside. Well, it's still funny, you know. If you survive, and if you come out of that relatively unscathed, a moment in time like that, then you did okay, I think. If you didn't hurt anybody irreparably, then maybe that's okay. That's a memory you could cherish forever. But yeah, I caught his bed on fire. He almost caught me, and that's a public service announcement to be careful with fireworks, kids, because fireworks are not toys. Yeah, but tell that to a teenage boy, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story. I enjoyed telling you, and yeah, see you next time.